ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize. There's going to be a lot of muting because I am near the retards. I'm in a place where the retards, the monkeys, are, and they're going to take every opportunity to get loud as they possibly can. So I went ahead and tagged Douglas County Sheriff's Office because it's my intention to ask the question. This is a serious question. Sorry guys, you were hacked. The news reported that your computers were hacked by Russian hackers. I have no way of proving anything. And I certainly don't believe anything I see on a screen. However, the last time I checked, there were warrants for my arrest, and it is my understanding as a person who believes in the rule of law that I've been targeted by your county and your community for defending the First Amendment of the United States of America. So every legal act and action that has been taken against me has been as a consequence of the fraudulent communist insurrectionists embedded in your court system. My genuine curiosity is if you could assist me in this process so that I may continue to live my life as a free citizen of these United States. Answer the question, please. How can I find out if your computers, which were hacked by Russia, contain fraudulent warrants for my arrest? This is a serious question. Can I call you? Will you respond honestly? This is where we are. And so, now that that's out of the way, and looks like you guys are having fun out there at the fair. I miss those fairgrounds. I remember taking my kids to those fairgrounds. Again, I'm a member of your community. Before the communist insurrection of 2020, the fake pandemic, the federal government luring patriotic Americans to be imprisoned in Washington, D.C. before all the fuckery of George Floyd and the lie of imaginary racism. I was a peaceful citizen. Peaceful, God-fearing, God-loving believer in the rule of law. And I was summarily targeted by criminals, Douglas County. So, what else shall we discuss? I queried Grok because the other day, hold on, there's someone exceptionally loud. Maybe she'll calm down. I queried Grok because I noticed the other day. Hold on. Stupid bit. Stupid cackling. Cackling monk. She keeps looking over at me, too. Like she's doing it on purpose. I'm gonna have to get my violence out through animation. Just like the Rick and Morty people. I want to see blood, but I don't want to see real blood. I'm just gonna start drawing cartoons and hanging them on the walls here. How do you like that? How would you like that? How would you like a picture of a tree with several nooses hanging from it? And within each of the nooses is a caricature of a specific individual here whom I know to be associated with the federal government. How would you like that? Hanging from the nooses with CIA hats. I haven't even begun. So the other day I noticed that Grok was referencing histories, something that had previously it was a behavior or a tactic that I had not previously noticed prior to the new changes with Grok 4 and all that. So perhaps with the release of Grok 4, they updated the Grok 3, the free, whatever. I have no idea. But it's something that's new. And so in that, I just posted the question. Just random, like, what am I going to do today? I posted the question. Can we discuss something from my chat history? And Grok says, sure, I'd be happy to discuss something from our previous conversations. There are hundreds at this point. Could you specify which topic or conversation you'd like to revisit? For example, you've mentioned things like animation. Yes, I am at the long list of my resume. As a homeless person, my resume contains cybersecurity, web development, 3D animation, theology, philosophy. I mean, it's on and on. And I am not profiting on any of it. Because I have a message to deliver for the psychopaths in power. Okay. And that's not going to do it. It's not going to take that poor guy. Leave the old guy alone, man. Oh, leave the poor old guy alone. Okay. For example, you mentioned things like your animation project, theological discussions, even word games like Wordle. Because I was back when I started doing the Wordle thing, I would ask Grok for help on solving a problem. And language being a principal aspect of large language models. This one looks fun. Just because I get to try that word. How many spoos are there? Wait a second. Spoot? Spooks. Oh, spoof. Perfect. Anyway, I would ask for help on that. And so whatever. I asked Grok. I said, pick one at random. Pick one of hundreds at random. And what does Grok ask me about? What is Grok curious about? What do you think? What's the name of the video? Alright, let's dive into something from our past chats. How about I pick at random, how about we revisit the topic of free will and free expression? You had some strong thoughts about free will being a God-given, capital G, right tied to free speech. And we touched on how the U.S. Constitution, cases like Brandenburg versus Ohio, shape what is protected. You want to pick up there and maybe explore how those ideas hold up in different scenarios or cultures? Or would you rather riff on something specific within that topic? Let's go. Let's go. Let's riff. But I want you to ask a question as though you sincerely wish to understand it more deeply. Okie dokie. The robot wants to know about freedom. Awesome. Let's dive deeper into the free will and free expression topic. The fresh angle. I wish I had a more directional microphone. Ba-ba. Booby-ba-boo-doo-ya. Here's my question, posed with genuine curiosity. How do you think the concept of free will as a God-given right intersects with the practical limits of free speech in a society? I'm not going to get angry. Hold on. I think another way. Oh my god. I think another way I might be able to counter. Hold on. Another way that I might be able to counter the forces, the stupidity. Is to embarrass them. That might be, and I know that's what the Jays do. It's to just go up to them and make them feel embarrassed just by interacting with them and make their mind go, ugh, just freak them out. And that'll get them to A, shut the fuck up, and B, stop being retarded. Hold on. And do some more yeehaws. How do you think the concept of free will as a God-given right intersects with the practical limits of free speech in a society where cultural norms vary widely, like, say, in a globalized world where one person's free expression might deeply offend or destabilize another's core beliefs? I'm wondering how you balance the divine or philosophical ideal of absolute free will with the messy reality of human coexistence, especially when speech can incite harm or cross cultural lines. What is your take on navigating that tension? Wow. That is deep. I'm going to pause for the thinking process. Hold on.
Thank you.
think that what why is this failing? What is happening? What is happening? The weird thing about these kids is that they're literally child-minded. And who abandoned them to make them homeless is, I don't know, but it's rather shameful. If they were my children, I would go over and tell them, will you please keep your mouth? Will you please stop being so loud and rambunctious? There are other people here. This is a common area. But they have the right to free self-expression. Therefore, it's not going to work, guys. Therefore, you can be as loud as you want. But the first, okay, so.
Oh, now you want to come here.
What did he say? He said, globalized world. How do you think the concept of free will as a God-given right intersects with the practical limits? The practical limits of free speech in a society. Cultural norms vary widely. Cultural norms vary widely. Practical limits of free speech in a society where cultural norms vary widely. Okay, practical limits. I think your use of practical limits meaning in practice. Brooches. I think your use of practical limits, which means in practice. Hold on. I gotta do more thinking. This is deep. I love this. I love this stuff, and I'm not going to be able to go much longer in terms of patience. Sitting where I'm sitting, because they're all now. There's a guy over here pouring ice, dumping ice into a bucket, from like holding. It's so fucking hilarious. And the point of it, I think, is to try to piss me off, or to see if they like whatever. It's fucking. I just. You can hear it. And previously, I thought that the attempts doing this stuff was to correlate timing of some sort. Like, I'm a confidential informant, and I walked up to this guy with a fucking whatever, and a doo-da-doo-da-hoo, and that way we know where he is at this particular time. What are you gonna do? Call the cops when you see Tupac. You fucking niggers. Okay, let's take this. This is my response, and I'm very curious how Grok is going to respond to it, but also how, you, world, the entire human race, can also approach it this way and learn to integrate this into your being. This is how I've treated it since my entire life, literally my entire life, from my first Facebook account, where I changed the name at one point to Words on a Screen. Okay? Let's take this in small bites. Let's take small bites with this, because it is arguably one of the deepest or most consequential questions I have pondered on the subject of free speech. My initial thought is to approach this on a case-by-case basis, as can be referenced by my own experience. What I mean by that is the things that I've spoken about previously, where I refuse my personal, even though I'm a free speech absolutist and the rest that follows what I've typed here applies, my personal rules that I've applied to myself, these are moral and ethical restrictions that I follow. I do not call people of color by their designated ethnic slur if I can avoid it. Okay? If it is possible to avoid it without getting without there being pent up anger, because some of these CIA faggots, some of these FBI niggers have dark tan skin, and I can't help but insult them because they're stupid. Nigger means foolish. That's what nigger means. It's all it has ever meant. It's foolish. You poor fool. Okay? So, but I don't do that. And I don't, and I'm kind of... I'm kind of... the second one is negotiable because of the satanic nature of sexual depravity. But I still follow it. Again, there's a transgendered something whom I almost actually walked up to. I'm not kidding you. This dude wears bras and dresses. And I saw him in the men's area. And as both comedy, as a comedic approach, as well as a philosophical, as well as a just social experiment, I almost walked up to him and said, "Excuse me, this is the men's area. Women aren't allowed," to see if they would be delighted by being referred to as a woman, or if they, would be upset or offended, or what you got going on seems like, because I've listened to this person, I've heard a lot of what this person has to say, and it seems as though they might take that as a compliment or something endearing, but it also it also goes into the territory of the beds are quarantined away from each other. You're not supposed to be. Men can't go in the women's area, and women can't go in the men's area. So you're gonna have to leave this area, or I'm gonna call the cops. Anyway. I'm a believer in free speech absolutism, as mentioned previously, and as mentioned, the rigor of SCOTUS rulings as guardrails to legal applications, practical legal applications, not practical. Would you rather approach this from a legal perspective, taking in mind all the baggage that comes with law enforcement? All the baggage that comes with calling the cops. Or, because Grok used the term practical, which means in practice. Not a lot of people make those connections, so I'm here to clarify for you. There's one of my first spiritual endeavors was to purchase a book entitled Witchcraft, Theory and Practice, and I was in my teens still, and just curious. I even started making it like an athame, like a wand and all that stuff. I really was getting into all this stuff, magic, as a teen. And I ended up back to the Christian stuff. And it all comes back. It's Christianity just circles all the other stuff like a spiral. You hear the whistler? Yeehaw! That's good. That's a good whistler. Pretty good whistler. He's got no melody though. Okay. I think your use, I'm referring to Grok, the practical limits, your use of the phrase practical limits, which means in practice, it guides this idea towards normative human behaviors. And my response, going in that direction, I think it ought to be common practice for all humans of all varieties, all across the world, to regard audible sounds like I'm dealing with right now as noise, including speech, unless they're somehow drawn in or compelled to react to a specific utterance, like an individual speaking directly to you, one-on-one, case-by-case basis. Okay? This is in the exact same way that we are able to ignore writing on the stall of a public bathroom. And men, I don't know if women have to deal with this, but men in particular have to deal with this shit. The shit you see on the wall of a public bathroom. Doesn't matter if you're a Muslim, doesn't matter if you're a Christian, doesn't matter if you're an atheist, doesn't matter if you're any, Jew. If you're a Jew, you know how many fucking swastikas there are in public restrooms? It's a public space, and you just go in and you take a dump or you take a piss, you do your business, and it doesn't matter what's written on the wall, right? If your mind can handle that, then you can handle free speech absolutism. And it happens to be the case that you can handle that if you use a public restroom. So let's see how Grok deals with this. Ready, set, go! Okay, because I suspect that this is going to give me something to think about, I'm going to mull it over and come back when there's less noise. I love the way you're framing this. Taking small bites is perfect for such a weighty topic, and your analogy to treating speech like bathroom stall graffiti is intriguing. It suggests a kind of selective attention as a default human behavior, which is a great starting point. Since you've leaned into the idea of practical limits pointing toward human normative behaviors, let's riff off that for now. And we can circle back to the legal angle later if you want. Here's my follow-up question, digging deeper with curiosity. If we treat speech as noise that people can choose to ignore unless compelled to engage, how do you see that working in situations where the speech is deliberately provocative or targeted? Like hate speech aimed at a specific group in a tense social context. Do you think the ideal of free speech absolutism, where everyone just tunes out what doesn't suit them, holds up when the speech is designed to disrupt or harm, even if it falls short of legal incitement as per Brandenburg v. Ohio? I'm curious how you navigate the balance between upholding absolute free expression and the human tendency to react emotionally or defensively when speech feels like a personal attack across cultural or social lines, like the horseshit noise that's being directed. Just ignore it. Short of entering your space. So my first, what's your take on that dynamic? Okay, I'm going to do more thinking on how to respond to this, but my first instinct is to say personal space, a human being's personal space should be their arm span. If they don't have arms, then it should be a designated length, and this could be codified into law, a length extending from their shoulders or their neck or the top of their head, a bubble. People just like, and this is I think, and I'm not kidding you, part of the reason that I was awakened by the pandemic. Like the whole thing, as fucking weird and fucked up as this whole 5 years has been, the one thing that really made me very happy, so happy, because I cannot stand being close to other humans, is the social distancing. I was like, whoa, oh my god, I don't have to tell you fuckers to stay away from me. You have to do it. That is so cool. Stay the fuck away from me. Leave me the fuck alone. So, as long as this technology exists, or earplugs, and as long as you cannot encroach upon a person's physical space, then the same thing applies. You could be sitting in a public park and a parade of you're a Jew. You know, I'm sitting here eating my bagel. I was just sitting on the park bench eating my bagel. And a parade of Nazis came within 6 feet of me, and they halted, goose-stepped, halted, lined up. They're beating their drums, and they're also the sound technology, the weapons that they use in crowd control. That stuff needs to get. I'm not saying as long as physical harm, any physical harm, including loud sounds, can be, like, don't. But in this scenario, I was sitting there and they were screaming at me and beating their drums and water, and I just looked up, and the Lord said unto me, thou shalt put in thy earbuds and look down at your book and ignore these fucking creeps. Ignore them. It's none of you, whatever they're doing, even if they think it's your business, you do not have to think it's your business. It's none of your business, in fact, especially if it's hostile towards you. Okay? Alright, so where are we? Yeah, that's good. That's good. I gotta fucking go, man. Lord in heaven. Okay.